What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Got some Witchcraft duels showing you the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to this archetype. Feels like an archetype that if it can slow the game down and it can get its boss monsters on the field early, it definitely can beat a multitude of even the best like meta decks. But at the same time, this is not a fast archetype at all. And if you don't get to if you don't get her on field, she's not super good in your hand. If you don't get the Heine, then you're going to have a bad time against even just like tier 3, tier 4 decks. I mean, people got to understand even tier 3 and tier 4 decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Can still do some good plays. So he's going to maybe find that out the hard way playing against the Fire King deck. And, you know, Fire King does have he's got a nice little negation here with the Arvada, and he's going to negate that first ability. Now, I don't think that using Ash Blossom on the effect of Pator was the right play, because Pator is like, it's basically just like a Dark World Dealings of sort. Like, I wouldn't Ash, I wouldn't Ash that. I would just wait for something where my Ash is going to get a 1-for-1. But I mean, I guess, you know, it's just a little bit of a player call there. Anyways, Battle Phase gets that 2700 damage. And ultimately, the big chicken is blown up, but don't worry, it's a big chicken. It's going to come back over and over and over again. I think that he's trying, like, he's getting these monsters on board, but these aren't necessarily good monsters. Now, he has Bias Street, so at least, you know, his Schmitta couldn't be destroyed by battle, but he did foolishly, in my opinion, give it up. Now he's going to have his monster probably attacked over and lose his field spell. And even though the Tornado Dragon is going to die, if you're the Fire King player, you're just trying to keep your opponent's monsters off board, and more importantly, just make it so they don't end with a Witchcraft monster on board. Vere is summoned, but he says Torrential Tribute to that. I mean, I don't really think anybody saw that coming. Who plays Torrential Tribute in 2019? Bear's going to get him a nice +1. I actually remember during Zexal where Bear was like the best card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Dude, I love Zexal so much. You guys remember that when Cosmo Blazer came out? This is like the best singular card in Yu-Gi-Oh, man. Bear, I actually like argued that the card was broken. I was like, dude, it's 1600. It pops a monster and it gets you another copy of a search. It's too OP. Second duel is going to be against Thunder Dragons. This is the old guard Thunder Dragons. When I say that, I mean that this is basically the non-danger version. I honestly think that this version is far inferior to the danger version. This is what I kind of thought I would be dueling against at the regional, and this build of Thunder Dragons is just so easily beatable because, you know, it gets wrecked by things like Secret Village, and I don't know, it just feels a little bit slower. The new builds that just run Sekka's Light and run the Guard Dragons, like, they will push through a whole bunch of cards because locking down spells doesn't do anything to them. They only play 3 spells in the entire deck. So let's see what's going to happen here. Thunder Dragons going second in this duel. I believe that, you know, he might try to get Very out of his hand, pitches the Metaphose Fusion. Interesting enough, did not put Metaphose Fusion back in his deck to draw a card. I thought that was weird. I probably would have done that just to see if I could have drawn another spell card that could have been better. Anyways, Thunder Dragon already got the original Thunder Dragon in his hand activated, so he should be able to drop a Colossus fairly easily. Let's see, there's Colossus. Goes into battle phase. I think that he just like forgot about Vere, or I don't know, maybe he just didn't have a way of playing around it. Maybe could have done something earlier in the turn, trying to get rid of Secret Village. Vere is going to shut that down. Nightmare Unicorn, so he's going for the second time. He will get it this time. This to me didn't make any sense. This Thunder Dragon player is actually trolling. He goes for Thousand Eyes Restrict. I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm always on board. If you're running Instant Fusion in your deck, I'm always on board with running Thousand Eyes Restrict as a second target, because I feel like in situations like this is when you want Thousand Eyes Restrict. He is going to suck up a monster, but why would you not get rid of Vere? Why would you not get rid of the best monster in the entire archetype? You go after Adele, which isn't even good, honestly. The card is terrible, but I don't know. I was tilted by that. He's going to go for Colossus in main phase 2. The reason you'd want to get rid of Vere is because she has the stat amplifying effect that can be activated during either player's turn, and she has the negation effect, and then you can add Dispel. Like, you need to get her off the field immediately. Now your opponent does have a spell in hand, and she's back online. Ravia Warlords just make the situation worse because Nightmare Unicorn is also just going to fall because he's obviously going to keep Thunder on field, and now he can summon all these Thunder monsters, but with Vere on field, his opponent still has at least the ability to give one of his monsters 1000 attack, which, surprise, nice he's going to do because it's a free effect. You don't have to spend any advantage to do it. I feel like the player just lost the duel right then and there. He's going to activate Extravagance, gets 2 copies of Secret Village, which that's your deck trolling you right there. He's going to turn off the Colossus. That's another reason you wanted to get Very off the field, is eventually your opponent playing Witchcraft will get a bunch of spells in hand, and they will just start turning off your Colossuses and running them over just because they get that many cards on field. So he's just going to attack into some Summon Summoner. And probably within the next turn or so, these Thunder Dragon Colossuses are going to find themselves all being turned off, switching them to defense mode, which also was probably a mistake. Anyways, they are going to be starting to get turned off now, and the battle phase is, making them work. And Thunder Dragon player is just simply out of resources. Now, the Thunder Dragon player played this duel wrong, but this is also, I mean, I guess if you don't have access to the danger cards, I do kind of get it. If you're like, hey, Cap, I like Thunder Dragons, but, I can't afford the danger stuff. Like, okay, I get it then. I understand playing the old guard of Thunder Dragons, but you gotta make sure you don't make misplays like this. This is game number 2, and looks like Thunder Dragon said, you go first. I'm going to force you to go first and then break your board, because Witchcraft, I mean, if you don't get the Floodgates, it's not exactly like the strongest board. I mean, this turn 1 board really only has 1 disruption, which is very not the hardest thing in the world to play around. The buy streak gives very protection, but that's it. You know what I mean? It's not another disruptor card. Thunder Dragon should be able to play around this. However, you might need to go for some Nightmare cards to, basically try to bait the Very out. Let's see what happens here. Goes for Nightmare Unicorn. That's probably not what I would have thrown out first, because if Very simply negates it, now you might lose access to your only way of killing the damn Very, unless you're going to go Borolo Dragon, which would have not been a terrible idea. Just steal Very, and then, hopefully your opponent can't, bring it back. Hopefully they don't have any way of bringing the Very back, which is probably not going to happen because the deck does have a Monster Reborn. Anyways, the Titan not doing anything, and Burial from a Different Dimension, which is really interesting, is going to be played. Ash Blossom is going to be used there, but the problem is he can simply attack over Saryuja Skull Dread by buffing her up to 3,000 attack, and now those resources start being recovered. This card right here, the Draping, is not really going to be useful against Thunder Dragon, so I imagine in this duel it's basically just going to be sitting in your hand the entire time. Thunder Dragon Colossus got turned off. Maybe you can make a second Colossus, or excuse me, Titan, and maybe try to pop Very, or pop the back row, then pop Very. That would be what I personally suggest. Buy Street is going to be popped, and then he is going to try to pop the Very. And hey, look, he actually made some room here. Maybe he can probably figure out a way to get this done. 800 life points. I think there is a legit chance he has to sabotage to bring her back, and I feel like that chance went out the window. Honestly, the deck can just stall back now. The Thunder Dragon player, he's eventually going to run out of Thunder monsters in hand, especially when all your Titans are just going to constantly get negated. So he's going to go for Nightmare Phoenix. At this point, I feel like he was, I don't want to say trolling, but had kind of given up on the duel. When you go for Nightmare Phoenix and you get rid of Buy Street, knowing that your opponent still has 4 cards in hand, you can't simply attack into Very, because Very can just reveal spells, and then, you basically just take a whole bunch of damage. So this duel is all but over at this point, as Very is just going to constantly pump up the Heine, and Thunder Dragon Titan doesn't have protection from battle destruction. Even if it is really, really strong, all you got to do is just reveal a whole bunch of spells and traps in your hand, and that is basically a wrap. So a lot of people might not know exactly how to duel against Witchcraft, but you basically got to get this card off the field if you do have the opportunity, and don't go for other monsters if you do. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed those duels. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.